realize that you're in that state. It's not good or bad to be in it. You can choose to be there. That's the thing. Most people don't understand that they can choose to. And once you choose not to, the next one is from discontent to anger. Fear is one of those emotions that really holds you back and you don't know what to do.
Gino, welcome to the call.
Rock, I'm so thankful that you have me on. I haven't seen you in a while. How are things going?
Yeah, things are, interesting as we talked about off camera is a lot of things we thought were going to happen. I was one of those people that said, this pandemic is going to last a month or two. We're going to go back to normal. I refuse to have a new normal. And now I find myself having masks all over in my car and getting used to just putting them on and talking to people through my mask louder. And I'm like, oddly, I'm getting comfortable with this. How about you?
Well, for me, the biggest learning lesson, I think everyone needs to write this down. Really, really think about it. Don't overreact, because when March came, I never forget this. I'm sitting with Jake and I see Grant Cardone and I see a video of him and it looks like he's about to commit suicide. And I'm like, what's going on? Everything was blowing up. Like, we heard that this pandemic was, everyone was cutting off 40% workforce and going crazy. We actually had a quarterly meeting with a coach and he brought that up. And Jake and I promptly said, we can't do any more business, because you can't start off a conversation with all bad news and then go, okay, well, this is good. For me, it really came down to, is a huge problem. Let's assess it. Let's not overreact. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with stimulus money. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy. We don't know what's going to happen with rent collections, because we're in the apartment space. Just don't overreact and really try to assess the situation. Look at it from an analytical perspective, number one, a logical perspective, number two, and obviously the third one is the emotional perspective. But don't lead with emotions. And that's what a lot of people did. They lost their crap and they overreacted. And then what happened? They laid people off. PPP comes. All of a sudden, you're hiring those people back on. Are you furlough, right? So was I afraid? Yeah, I still am. I don't want to say fearful, but I'm still cautious, because we talked about it. The numbers can lie. You can make numbers lie in real estate. You can make numbers lie in anything. So for me, I don't know what the new norm is. I don't want to accept that. It seems like you've been working on yourself the last few months. I've taken this time in the last few months to work on myself, work on our businesses, and that's all you can do throughout this pandemic, and see where the businesses are shifting. There's going to be opportunities for people out there. This, for me, is like the 2008 Great Recession. I had that Great Recession back in '08. I was in the restaurant business, and I thought the world was ending. For me, it was terrible. Construction people weren't coming in to eat. The business slowed down. I'm working more, earning less. Fast forward to today, it's like so eerily similar. And Rock, one more
Yes.
thing. The thing that's really bothered me about this whole pandemic, I was a small business owner up until 5 or 6 years ago when I got on with Jake. I had a restaurant. And if this had happened now and I had that restaurant, I would be wiped out. I would be so mad and so upset. And what I'm seeing going on is people are saying, stay home, stay safe. Okay, that's fine. If you're on a government pension, or if you're got some money coming in, it's great. But suckers like Gino, who had a restaurant, who have to go to work, or the gym owners in New Jersey have to go to work, have a little sympathy for people like us, because when you shut off the spigot, and even if you have some savings, you're talking 2-3 months down the road, you've got to pay your rent, you've got to pay your employees. It's really hard. And I struggled with that the first couple of months. Ironically enough, my life hasn't changed. I have 6 kids. We homeschool our kids. I don't have to send my kids to school. So I'm not talking at taking a position, but just for those people out there that are really yelling at others for stay home, stay safe, don't open up your businesses. Listen, when you've been doing it for 20 years like I did at the restaurant, I grew a business with my family. I mean, it was everything. It was my identity. Then for somebody to come in and say, you're sheltered in place, locked down, can't do anything. Looking back at it, I don't think that was the right thing that New York did, because that's how people got sick. And now they're saying there's no numbers. Well, they went through it right now. So I know that was a long intro, and there's a lot of stuff out there for everybody. But my feeling on it is really just don't overreact in anything in life. Just take a step back. And I'll say one more thing. The thing that really ultimately saved me was having an amazing partner in Jake, and saying, Jake, what do we do now? I'm not on an island by myself. That's what real estate is all about. If you can build the networks, and your net worth comes from those networks and those abilities and those relationships, get out there and surround yourself with like-minded people. Surround yourself with people that can help you and will hold you accountable. Because without him, it would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah, well, you did say a lot there, but I get the whole piece about not overreacting, and I'll piggyback on that by saying you could be anywhere in the world golfing, let's say, look at your phone, and get a piece of information that makes you feel good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Stocks are up, deal died, whatever. But if you didn't look at the phone, you wouldn't know,
Mm-hmm.
and you wouldn't have that reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's a way that people can go, okay, I got this information. Now let me pretend for 10 minutes I didn't even know it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Distance yourself a little bit,
Yep.
breathe, and then start to look at it, like you said. What did you say? Logically, analytically, and then emotionally.
Yes. And it's funny you have that. I have my notes here, breathe. It says breathe and slow down, because a lot of times we forget to breathe, right? We forget to breathe. We forget to create and control our physiology. You know, we aren't depressed. We do depress, right? You can get out of that state pretty quick if you know how to. And I think the other important thing is figure out where you're resonating. You're conscious. You got to think about your thoughts. You're always your thoughts. We have two levels of energy. We're either in a catabolic state, which is low, soul sucking, or an anabolic state. Now, there's no such thing as saying, okay, you know, you're acting like a victim or you're angry. That's not a good or bad state. Just understand that you're in that state. You know, I felt like a victim in the beginning of COVID. Why is this happening to me? We're just having a great time with the businesses. Deal flow is drying up. Realize that you're in that state. It's not good or bad to be in it. You can choose to be there. That's the thing. Most people don't understand that they can choose to. And once you choose not to, the next one is from discontent to anger. Fear is one of those emotions that really holds you back and you don't know what to do. I got into anger getting in the restaurant. That, oh wait, really pissed me off, Rock. I lost a lot of money like everybody else. I got angry. And what did I do? I ultimately took action. So use that anger and understand that that anger will drive you to action. You're either moving away from pain or you're moving towards pleasure. And that's what I was doing. And that's what actually ultimately set me free. And that anger allowed me to go and find a coach, learn about real estate, make those mistakes, find Jake. Because if I wasn't angry, if I was in that little fear victim mode, I would never have taken action.
Yeah, well said. So talk us through a little bit since '08, because it's 12 years now, but it probably happened pretty fast for you. And you now have how many doors?
We have almost 1,600 units.
So 1,600 units. And for most people that are starting out or want to start out, that might sound very daunting. So give us a little bit the fast version of the last 12 years, what that has looked like, and where you think the next 5 years will take you.
Sure. I wrote an article on jakeandgino.com. I just launched it today or yesterday. It's the 7 levels of creating a successful business. And it's really the 7 levels of anything, doing anything. I think the first one is just having that aha moment, that epiphany moment. For me, real quick, this is important, everybody. '07, my dad passes away. I've been working at the restaurant with him since I was 8 years old. It was in my blood. I loved it. And when he passed away, I worked with him in the kitchen. I sat back and I realized, I said, am I building my dad's dream or am I building my dream? And that really hurt. That really hurt because I'm like, am I doing this because I was pleasing him? I loved working with him, but he wasn't there anymore. There was a vacuum there. And then on top of that, '08 happens. And I'm like, wow, this really sucks. I'm not making money. I lost one of my best friends. You know, it was really a reflecting time. Everything else was going great. Family life, everything else, but just monetarily. And for me, the other thing was I was coming home and I was mad and I was angry. And I didn't want my kids to see anger and frustration with hard work. I didn't want them to put those two together because my wife just told me yesterday, she goes, Gino, you know, you're working just as hard at the restaurant, maybe harder. But I'm like, Jewel, when I come in at the end of the day, my kids see that I love what I'm doing. So it doesn't matter how hard I work. I wanted to enjoy what I was doing and I lost that enjoyment. That's when I clicked in and I said, the next thing is you got to take action. Education times action equals results. So I got educated on that. I went out and did certain coaching programs, and that really helped me out. The next step after that is I found Jake. I found a great partner. It took us 18 months to find the first deal because we didn't know that brokers were the gatekeepers. We were treating brokers as the salespeople. And I just had John Rulin on a podcast yesterday on giftology. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. He's an amazing dude, right? And you know what? Start gifting to people. Start creating those relationships with those brokers because they're the gatekeepers. That's why it took us 18 months to find that first deal. After the first deal, I went out and got life coached. I really got into life coaching. And I said, I want a real clarity on what I'm doing. Why am I going into this real estate business? What am I doing? Because I'm at a crossroad here. I only wanted to get a couple $1,000 a month in passive income. I had the restaurant. Could I do more? I think I was thinking small, like most of us do. You know, I just want a little bit. But then when you get that taste, it's like the proof of concept and having the partner and saying, okay, Jake, Let's buy our second deal. It took us 3 months to get that second deal from the momentum that we had, right? And that was really cool. We're at 60 units within the first 3 months of buying our first deal. And then 6 months after that, we bought a 136 unit deal. That all happened because I was sourcing capital. I found an amazing partner with Jake. So for me, Jake, and my partner, Mike, we own 1,000 units by ourselves. The first 1,000 units we did by ourselves because I didn't know syndication. I didn't take it to the next level, right? I knew what I knew. So it worked out for me. Looking back, if I'd started syndicating, I'd have a lot more units, but I'd have less equity. So there's trade-offs. So for me, I think Life Coaching Rock was one of those pivotal moments where not only did it help me personally, because it was only about personal development, but it started helping me help others and getting into the education space and saying, you know what, people that are starting out, they can use me as their role model, and I can learn how to ask those great questions, those empowering questions, which a lot of us don't know how to ask because it's all about us when we're talking to somebody. So that's how it started out.
I love it. I love it. I want to go over a couple of things just to give context to people because some people just don't know. So as you accumulate these doors, and I know you're a numbers guy, you probably have an idea of how much money each door can throw off for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that changes over time. But can you give people just a context? Is it $100 a door, $200 a door? What does that look like? Because if somebody gets to 60 units, can they retire on that? Or does it take a few years?
Mm-hmm.
When you buy the units, are they kind of break even? Maybe just speak to that a bit.
Great question. I mean, in every market, it's different. A market like San Francisco, where the per door cost is more, it may cost $300,000 to buy one apartment unit in San Francisco, whereas in Knoxville, it may cost $50,000 or $60,000 per unit. Obviously, the rents in Knoxville average $700 to $800. The rents in San Francisco average $3,000 to $4,000. So in Knoxville, average per door cost of let's say $60,000 that we're buying may average about $700 to $750 in rents. We are looking to net after everything, after paying everybody between $100 and $150 per unit. That's doing pretty good. Now, if you're syndicating those deals and you own them, you don't own them, that's obviously going to be diluted, right? But the thing that is great about multifamily real estate, we first started out, there's 4 reasons for multifamily. It's cash flow, there's appreciation, there's tax benefits, and number 4, there's cycle resiliency. I want everyone to write that down, which means right now people are going to rent. So for me, Jake got into it, and then we started buying these deals ourselves. And on our third deal, Jake was able to cost segregate it. I don't want to get into cost segregation on a big level, but everyone Google cost segregation. It's really an accelerated cost recovery system where people are actually able to depreciate their assets with bonus depreciation day one. So Jake, September of 14, we bought that big deal, 136 unit deal. The end of the year, by the end of that year, he fired his boss at a Taco Bell. He tells the story all the time because he was able to take that cost segregation, depreciate, and wipe out all of his income from the year from his W-2 job, took that money, and he was able to quote unquote retire and leave. So there's so many benefits. I don't want people just to think linearly because we think from a linear perspective. I got to get this number of doors because then what's happening as you're getting into the business, all of a sudden you're starting meeting relationships. You're starting to raise the capital. Maybe you do a syndication where you have an acquisition fee on the deal itself. There's so many different levers that you can pull in real estate. And by the time we had our third deal, we came out with the education, and the education platform was able to help us to start raise capital. So there's so many different levers to go. But to answer your question, you're looking between $100 and $150 per unit in positive cash flow.
I love the way you answer questions. You give like 7 times the value of the question that's asked because you're so excited about this and you're so into it.
I love this stuff because, when you first start out, what does Mark Twain say? It's what you don't know. He says it's not what you don't, it's not what you know. It's not what you don't know.
That you don't know.
It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. I can't come out. So you think you know things for sure, but you really don't. And you're thinking only, I got to get these door numbers. But once you start building a multifamily is a business, right? All of a sudden you start scaling it up and you have operations and you get to 60, 70, 80 units. And then all of a sudden you can hire a full-time maintenance person and a full-time property manager. And then it'll give you the ability to expand and to get into other businesses, whether it's doing laundry on your properties, whether getting cable contracts, maybe doing some self-storage on the properties, maybe creating a little education platform. There's so many different things you can do. That's why it's hard to say in numbers. And ultimately, what do you want to derive out of it? Do you want to just continue to scale? Because I'm going to tell you the most important lesson, one of the most important lessons that I learned. Revenue is vanity, profit margins is sanity, and cash is king. right? So people say, well, where do you want to be in 3 years from now? How many doors do you want to have? I want to buy great deals, because if I can buy like the 49 unit deal we have under contract right now, in 18 months, if I can refinance that deal out, pull all my capital out, you do that one or two deals like that a year. In the next 2 to 3 years, you're financially free. You have amazing deals that are going to be consistently throwing off cash flow. You're going to have the tax benefits from it. So for me, focus on, what your niche is. Don't have that shiny object syndrome. Focus on it. Don't worry about crypto if you're going to do multifamily. Don't worry about single family homes. Pick a niche, pick an industry, and focus on it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So as you have evolved now over the last 12 years, you've acquired more properties, you've added these ancillary sources of revenue. You've got your podcast, which is crushing it. Where do you go for the next 5 years now that we as humans tend to think small because we don't know, right, what's over the next horizon? But now you've got a little bit of this pace going. What are you thinking for the next 5 years for Jake and Gino?
So for me, I'm just trying to sign up students that can do deals. Our students have closed almost 8,000 units in the last 3 years. So that's my goal, to help as many students close deals. And in Rock, it's ultimately, you probably know Garrett Gunderson, the abundance versus scarcity mindset. I had that scarcity mindset. And I said, if I start teaching people what to do, they're going to be competition to me. They may be competition to me, but back in March, our students brought us a 52-unit deal, and we partnered with our students. So the abundance mindset is out there. The ability to go on a podcast and give all this value, and people are going to say, well, you're telling your secret sauce. They're going to find out one way or the other if they're really motivated. Right. And great. It'll just make me much better. So it'll make me a much better investor. I just want to be a constant learner. I want to continually learn, continually get better at my craft, and try to help the Jake and Gino community, and really be a role model to the Jake and Gino community. Be a family man, be a man of faith, be a man who says what he does, teach people, and be that role model. That's what I want to be. And as far as unit counts, I don't know. Just continue to buy as many deals as we can. We'd like to start a fund. We're going to start a fund on Q3, but it looks like building right now is the place to be. You're buying these assets at such a elevated price that if you can learn how to build brand new properties at, in A locations for what you're buying in B and C's, maybe building's the place to go. So I think as an entrepreneur, being able to read the market, being able to be nimble, and ultimately trying not to put your ego in it, like I said, and saying, you think you know it all, and try not to be blind and not have that groupthink, not have that confirmation bias where you think you know it all and you're confirming your beliefs, but saying, hey, let's look outside the box and let's see what other opportunities there are in the market.
Tell us a little bit about, if somebody is a student of yours, what that looks like.